When you were in film school, what were some of the things the teachers did that you said, you know what, this really works for me, and if I ever become a teacher, I want to emulate that, and then on the reverse, that it sort of shut you down?
One of the most important things that happened to me in film school was I had a professor who introduced me to the idea that art could be about process, not result. And he showed a series of experimental films and honestly even narrative films that were built around a way of working or an approach or a system, and the idea that you could do that and then be open to the result. And I don't make films that are as experimental as that, but that overall idea, it just changed my entire way of thinking. And I'm so grateful that someone introduced me to that idea. You know, we live in a media environment where I think we're very result-oriented. You know, how much money did the film make? What did people think of it? What were the reviews? That kind of stuff. And as an artist, I've really realized I have to be happy with the process too, and have a journey in the process. So that was super important. And I definitely also learned that I had professors who were super interested in engaging what was new and risky and exciting. I did also encounter, though, a certain sort of skepticism toward new technology. And I actually really promised myself that I wasn't going to be someone who, when the new thing came along, I would grumble about it and ignore it. I remember some, a minority of them, but a few professors sort of like really being against digital cameras, for example. They just didn't like them. And they weren't that great at the time. But it was just so clear to me they would obviously get better. You know, and here we are years later, and I love film, but we have great digital cameras too. And so I actually had that experience literally happen to me as a professor. Several years ago, I got access to an Oculus Rift developer kit, put on the headset, and my instant reaction was like, ugh. Like, I don't like this. Every tool of cinema is gone to me. I don't have a frame. I don't have editing. You know, I don't have lighting that much. And I was like, ugh, I don't want to do anything to do with that. And thankfully, in that moment, I was like, wait, you're being that old grumpy professor. Don't do that. And so instead, I threw myself into it. And I've done a lot of work in VR now. And honestly, I spent a long amount of time not liking it, but still doing it because I was just convinced there's got to be something to it. And now I'm at the point where, as I've now fully understood it to be different from film, I do like some things about it. But for sure, I had to overcome a lot of my like grumpy old dinosaur filmmaker sort of attitude to sort of see what was good about it.
What about that your work is going to invoke either not dislike but anger in some people? Like I'm thinking of Chris Burden. I don't know if you saw
Yes.
the doc, you know, he did the Lacma Lights, and
Yeah.
he did a lot of experimental stuff
Yeah.
that made people angry, you know, and he's not the only artist, and being okay with that.
I like the idea of movies that provoke questions and provoke a response. And I'm perfectly okay with people not liking the movies. You know, if someone, it isn't their cup of tea, if they have an objection to it. I will say, like, I don't know that I'm in a place in my life where I want to make a movie that I think will be consciously hurtful to anyone. And I do think about that for sure. Like, there's a line, I think, between provoking deep questioning or challenging dominant ideas. And then there's another level, which is like, but what I don't want to do is be hateful or hurtful. And I don't think that I am, but like I do think about that. So I'm excited for people to debate the movies, and I'm excited for people to sort of engage with them. And I'm even okay with people who are like, yeah, I didn't really like it. I think that to me, that doesn't impact my artistic choices. And I like filmmakers who do that too. There are filmmakers who I respect whose movies I actually don't particularly like, you know, and I'm glad they exist. I think for me, the only thing that I'm not interested in seeing is where I feel we cross the line between, you know, expressing alternate ideas to like essentially being, you know, hurtful.
And now too, I mean, do you prepare your students for that? Because like, I'm gonna date myself again, Gen X, we had party lines. You could call a party line and talk to people. You didn't have social media where you could say, I hated this, I hate the filmmaker, you're awful. And now that's a very real part of our culture, even if it's just someone that just wants to invoke an emotion in the filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the social media environment is actually the hardest for those of us that didn't come of age in it. Like, you know, when I started as a filmmaker, it was just beginning, right? The Silicon Valley explosion was just happening. And so for me, like, yeah, it is I have to definitely sort of remind myself anytime I go on Twitter, there is a chance that someone is just going to tell me they hate my movie. You know, it actually doesn't happen that often. It's maybe only one or two times. But yeah, for sure you have to balance stuff emotionally when you hear that. But when I watch my students, I think the truth is it's less that they're better at navigating that, but more that that's just a fact of life for them in all aspects of life. That like everything that they do is in some ways always subject to a lot of different commentary or judgment or ideas. And so I don't see them as like particularly sort of thinking about that being unique to their filmmaking experience as it is just reflective of their life experience.
Interesting. So maybe older people, myself
included,
we're having
a harder time.
We're having a harder time. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm the...
I feel that way, yeah.
Okay, great.